Part 5, Chapter 6, The Trumpets.
And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Revelation 8:2.
The 6th prophetic section begins with the presentation of 7 angels, ready to sound 7 trumpets, Revelation 8:2. Yet before this occurs, John is shown another angel in the holy place of the heavenly sanctuary. This angel is given a large quantity of incense to add to the prayers of all the saints, offered on the golden altar that stands before the throne. Revelation 8:3. The altar of incense is intrinsically linked to the culmination of the atonement process, as typified by the annual service described in Leviticus 16. Thus, the trumpets act as a warning, signaling preparation for the great and global Day of Atonement, which commenced on October 22nd, 1844, Leviticus 23:23-32, Sidef Revelation 8:5. The table below details the original historical fulfillment of the 7 trumpets: 8-7, 8-8, 9, 8-10, 11, 8-12, 9-1-11, 9-13-11-14, 11-15-19, trumpet 1, trumpet 2, trumpet 3, trumpet 4, trumpet 5, woe, trumpet 6, woe, trumpet 7, woe, Goths, Alaric, 395 AD, Vandals, Genseric, 428 to 468 AD, Huns, Attila, 434 to 453 AD, Barbarians, Odoacer, 476 AD, Muhammad, Arab expansion, 7th to 12th centuries, Turkish expansion of Islam, 13th to 19th centuries, removal of 7,000 titles in France, being 1/10 of spiritual Babylon. The kingdom of the world becomes the Lord's and his anointed's before the second coming. Destruction of the Western Roman Empire, destruction of the Eastern Roman Empire, and negative consequences for the papacy. Opening of the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary, interpreting the 5th and 6th trumpets. Josiah Litch, 1809 to 1886, interpreted the 5th and 6th trumpets, specifically predicting the decline of the Turkish Empire on August 11th, 1840, echoing Byzantium's past dependence on Turkey. He explained,
The first prophetic period found in the chapter 9 is in the 5th verse, that they must be tormented, those who do not have the seal of God in the papacy's perverted truths about the Sabbath and the true God. Revelation 9.45 months. 5 prophetic months equal 150 years. For 150 years, the locusts, or warlike armies of horsemen, which came out of the smoke of Muhammad's delusions to spread his religion, were to torment certain people, and they had a king over them. The beginning of the 5 months, therefore, is when these armies had one king over them of the character above described, Osman, the founder of the Ottoman or Turkish Empire. This empire was established in 1299 AD, and on the 27th day of July, 1299, Osman first invaded the territory of Nicomedia to begin his attack on the Greek Empire. See Gibbon's History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. Beginning in 1299, the 150 years would end in 1449 AD. In this year, John Palaiologos, the Greek emperor, died, leaving no children to succeed him. His brother, Constantine Drakos, was to succeed him. However, for some reason, despite being a time of peace, he sent ambassadors to the Turkish Sultan Amurath to ask for permission before ascending his brother's throne. Having received it, he took over the government. From that time on, the Greek emperor reigned only with the permission of his mortal enemy. The sound of the 6th angel. Hitherto, they, the Turkish forces led by Islam, had been confined to tormenting the Greeks without politically killing them. But from that moment on, they had to politically kill that nation. The duration of their dominion over the Greek Empire is limited to 1 hour, 15 days, 1 day, 1 year, 1 month, 30 years, and 1 year, 360 years, a total of 391 years and 15 days. If the time for the beginning of the periods was at the first attack of the Ottomans against the Greeks, July 27th, 1299, then the whole period would end in August 1840. On August 11th, the very day that Rifat Bey arrived in Alexandria. Josiah Litch, Address to the Public and especially to the Clergy, pages 113 to 124.
When Turkey's capitulation to the great powers of Europe occurred on this date, it significantly boosted public confidence in biblical prophecies. The open book and the most holy place. In Revelation 10, John symbolically represents those who ate the open book of Daniel and, after the great disappointment, entered the most holy place. Their purpose was to finish the mystery of God, as he declared through the prophets, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Colossians 1:27. The full realization of this process hinges on whether Jesus' life on earth is seen as the complete and final testimony to God's character. As long as the violent judgments in Scripture are interpreted as direct divine intervention, believers cannot reflect God's true non-violent character, preventing the emergence of a people with his name on their foreheads. Revelation 14:1. Just as the apostles, after their disappointment, followed Jesus in faith into the holy place of the heavenly sanctuary, so too did the small remnant of apostate Christianity, after their disappointment on October 22nd, 1844, follow Christ in faith into the most holy place. A new door was opened for them to gain an entirely new understanding of the true God and his Son, Revelation 3:7-8. There they saw the ark of God containing the 2 tablets of the 10 commandments, Revelation 11:19. They realized they had been observing a false Sabbath instead of the 4th commandment. They also understood that the dead are in a sleep-like state, awaiting awakening in the resurrection, John 11:11-14:24. This realization helped them grasp that there is no eternal hell for the wicked, but a punishment proportionate to their sin, after which they will cease to exist, Obadiah 1:16, Malachi 4:3. Apostasy and further light. Unfortunately, Adventists did not long follow this increasing light. Like ancient Israel, they attempted to keep God's law on their own. This turned their eyes away from Jesus, the source of their love, leading them to lose their original fervor and soon fall into the foretold Laodicean condition of lukewarmness, Revelation 3:14-22. The advancing truths began to sound to them as incomprehensible thunders, rather than a clear voice from heaven, Revelation 10:3-4, Sifediton, John 12:28-29. This undesirable condition was first recorded in 1856, Testimonies, Volume 1, Chapter 33, and Preface, Paragraph 9. That same year, Hiram Edson, 1806-1882, the man who first followed Jesus in faith into the most holy place on October 23, 1844, provided further insight into the 7 times of the Gentiles, 2,520 years. This prophecy confirmed the 2,300-year period of Daniel 8:14, and the identity of the Adventist people as the remnant to be gathered after the scattering of ancient Israel. The reaction to his study came 7 years later, in 1863, when Adventists presented a new prophetic chart that no longer contained the 7 times of the Gentiles. That same year, the movement was restructured into a church organization, indicating it would spend more time on earth than originally expected. This first apostasy was followed by more severe ones, and Adventists themselves entered a period symbolizing the 7 times. For 126 years, 1863 to 1989, the remnant people were subject to spiritual Babylon. This period symbolically represents 2,520 years and their half of 1,260 years, during which the Advent people suffered a spiritual drought as a result of their apostasy. These symbolic 3.5 years of spiritual drought and famine represent the time when the prophet Elijah was hidden from the sight of Israel. The 2 witnesses and latter rain. The next chapter, Revelation 11, presents the story of the 2 witnesses, Revelation 11:4, cf. Zechariah 4. They represent both the scriptures of the Old and New Testaments and the people who are their living bearers, 2 Corinthians 3:2-3. It's also noteworthy that the two witnesses share characteristics with Moses and Elijah, whose spirit is to prepare people for the Lord's coming through the manifestation of the true God and his law. Revelation 11:6, CFNO, Malachi 4:4-6. For 3.5 prophetic years of spiritual drought, they are clothed in sackcloth of mourning, 1,260 real years, due to the apostasy of the Christian church. Revelation 11:3, 6, CDF, James 5:17. However, as we've seen, this period is symbolically applied to the remnant people, because they too, unfortunately, began to worship the modern Baal, the Trinity, and to close themselves off to further light on God's law and his non-violent character. The cruelties and superstitions of apostate Christianity in the Middle Ages gave rise to extreme secular attitudes in Europe, first manifesting at the state level in the atheistic and rationalist ideology of the French Revolution, 1789 to 1799. This is the beast coming out of the abyss to wage war against the word of God and kill it. Revelation 11:7. It was then that the papacy received its deadly wound in 1798, when General Berthier's troops took Pope Pius VI captive. Revelation 13:5-3. Thus, in her fury, France equated apostate Christianity with the Bible, treating both under a common denominator, the atheistic ideology of the French Revolution, emphasizing humanistic brotherhood and equality, later transformed into the ideology of communism, with the USSR as its focal point. The two witnesses again prophesied in sackcloth during this period due to Adventism's apostasy. But in 1989, the Eastern Bloc and the Iron Curtain fell. Moses and Elijah reappeared in the ranks of God's people, the Adventists, and began to sound a loud alarm about the danger they were in. 12 years later, the result of their reform came. The first drops of the latter rain began to fall.
And upon every high mountain and upon every high hill there shall be rivers and streams of water in the day of the great slaughter, when the towers fall. September 11th, 2001, New York, World Trade Center. And the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold, as the light of 7 days, in the day that the Lord bindeth up the breach of his people, and healeth the stroke of their stroke. Isaiah 30:25-26.
This was the light of the third angel, Revelation 14:9-12, which had been withheld for so long due to the spiritual bondage of Babylonian commerce.
Come, and let us return to the Lord, for he has allowed the natural consequences of our rebellion to come upon us, and he will heal us. He has struck, and he will bind us up. After 2 days, he will revive us. On the 3rd day, he will raise us up, and we will live in his presence. Let us know, let us press on to know the Lord. His appearing is as sure as the dawn. He will come to us like the rain, like the latter rain that waters the earth. Hosea 6:1-3.
The Lord attempted to revive the Adventist people in 1888 through the messages of elders A.T. Jones and E.J. Wagoner, and later in the 1950s through those of missionaries Robert Wyland and Donald Short in 2 days. However, it was predicted that only after 2001, as a result of the reforming work of the spirit of Moses and Elijah, would his people be awakened again to new life and the completion of the mission. After the revival of the two witnesses, Revelation 11:11-12, 1989, the trumpet of the last seventh angel began to sound, announcing the third woe, which, like the first two, falls through Islam on the modern stronghold of Christianity in America, Revelation 11:14-15. The date 9/11 is encoded in the numerical designation of the verse that describes this religion as destroyer, Revelation 9:11. If in 1844, through the beginning of the Day of Atonement, the process of legalizing the citizenship of all deceased co-heirs of the Son of God was started, then, with the coming of the messages after 2001 about the true God and Father, the spiritual fullness of his law in the feasts, and the revelation of his non-violent character, the legalization of the citizenship of the living co-heirs of the Son of God was started. These advanced messages represent the finally decoded seven thunders of Revelation 10, symbolic representations in Revelation. The story of the woman persecuted by the dragon, Revelation 12, who gave birth to Christ, is the textual center of Revelation. It refers first to the time from the 1st to the 19th century, and then to that of the remnant itself after 1844. Thus, during the time of the first sounding of the seventh angel, the trumpets are repeated until its last sounding, following the pattern for the capture of Jericho, Joshua 6, 3-5. In chapter 13, the figures Satan uses at the end of time appear: the sea beast with the healed wound, 1st to 10th centuries, which is the resurrected papacy, and its advertising agent, Protestant America, 11th to 15th centuries, which works to impose the mark of the beast, the false Sabbath, 16th to 18th centuries. In this symbolism, the papacy appears as the only begotten son of the dragon, Satan, for whom he attempts to find a wife, imitating God's plan for the bride of Christ.